So I wanted to start this video to give a little clarity of some of the things we may be doing that we may not know that we're doing. Um, so I've been wanting to say this for a while now, and I just haven't really, you know, distractions. So I bring this up. Um, I'm gonna start this with Proverbs chapter 3 verse 32, and it says, "For the froward is abomination to the Lord, but his secret is with the righteous." Now, we hear the word froward and we're like, okay, we just kind of skip past it because we don't understand what that means, or we can't, or we don't really relate it to anything that we think we're doing. So froward is is basically is disobedience or difficult to lead with, aka stubborn. So it says here in the Bible, froward refers to individuals who are obstinately obedient or difficult to deal with, often implying a rebellious or perverse nature. So this term, those who resist wisdom and guidance, as seen in Proverbs verse or chapter 2 verse 12 and Proverbs chapter 4 verse 24. So it signifies a stubborn resistance to authority and divine guidance, indicating a rejection of God's wisdom. So and then it says it's derived from the English term, meaning willfully disobedient or contrary. So being ignorant, well, not really ignorant, but yeah, being hard headed, being stubborn. Um, I wanted to bring that up because we all know people like that. We need and you know we don't know, or they don't know, they don't have the understanding that God hates that. God hates that. And they don't know that because that's not something that's like normally discussed. It's not normally discussed, because that's not, that's a word we're all not used to. And then we got all these other words that, we were taught. And then with our lingo, we change, we make slang, things change, you know. So I wanted to just bring that to light. All right. The next one I want to bring up is Proverbs chapter 4, verse 14 through 17. Now, this says, "Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause someone to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence." Now, I had to bring that up because, when when I was in my 20s, I used to drink a lot. I used to, talk on, you know, I used to be on that gas, you know what I'm saying? And, I didn't think nothing of it. I thought I was doing, you know, enough for God. I didn't think I had to do more. And I was like, well, I handle what's right, enjoy the pleasure of it, And the more and more I did it, the more and more, things were changing, and I was starting to get into, unfamiliar, starting leading to a unrighteous life, and so I just wanted to say that. So, but I remember I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. The only way I remember that I would sleep was being under under the influence. I was either under the influence when I was on that gas, or when I was just drinking some liquid or something, you know, and those and call it passed out, but you just you drop, and I remember it was just blackout. I couldn't dream, it's just I close my eyes and then I'm up, that's at least that's what it felt like, or there was a time where you know I would if I didn't like lust, or if I didn't try to if I didn't say something perverse, or if I didn't do none of that, I couldn't sleep, and you know like I said, the prolonged exposure over time, I was starting to people were starting to get into like the drama, if fights broke out, like we enjoyed that, we enjoyed, the presence of that. And it took me a while to snap out of it. Like I said, we was young, didn't really have much guidance to this part, because we're always taught to pray, but we haven't had this understanding taught to us, you know. All right. So now I want to go to, like I was saying here, with the wicked, you can't rest. But another thing, unless they cause someone to slip up, you know, get out of character themselves. The other one I want to talk about is strife. Now, strife is a big one right now. Strife is a big one right now. So, strife here is a conflict, struggle, or contention among individuals. Okay? So, in the Bible, strife refers to conflict, struggle, or contention among individuals, uh, often arising from deeper issues like jealousy or pride. It is portrayed as a destructive force that can lead to broken relationships and emotional turmoil. Strife is not just limited to arguments, it can involve bitterness or sometimes violence, highlighting the seriousness consequences of discord. Overall, the Bible concept of strife serves as a reminder of the challenges in relationships and the importance of seeking peace and reconciliation. Now, like I said, the reason why I brought up strife is because it kind of when I hear the word strife now, and I look at this, what really gets me is the word bitterness, and like emotional turmoil, jealousy or pride. So what gets me is the fact that, okay, so what gets me is like when I hear that now, I think of gaslighting. That's to stir up problems. That's to stir up, um, problems. Which it could lead to arguments. It can make someone bitter. It could trigger the like a pride in someone. If someone has a pride, you could trigger it in a sense where that's all they're operating in. Or in a jealousy mode. You know, um, so that's what I wanted to bring up. So I just wanted to give that understanding. Whenever you hear the word like gaslighting now, I'm not saying it means strife, but we should look at it as strife because it's causing problems. It's disrupting a peace. It's causing contention. It's causing beef between us. And that's not of God. That's not of God. Of God is of righteousness, peace, love, one another, obedience, order, you know, and That's all I wanted to say. I hope this gave you some understanding and insight on this. And that'll be it of this video. One love, one brethren, and I'm out.